Sometimes when creative people, songwriters, playwrights, some of the best inspiration for their works come from their own lives. A classic case in point is the case of now Toowoomba resident Marianne Buchanan. Marianne has a play called Breaking Breast coming to Toowoomba's Empire Theatre in just under 2 weeks' time as part of the Empire Theatre's Homegrown independent program. But Breaking Breast is a very personal story for Marianne Buchanan. She wrote it as she was recovering from stage 3 invasive breast cancer treatment back in 2019. And the story tells the tale of her whole experience through and beyond cancer. And it's told using verbatim theatre, which is basically when the script reflects pretty much precisely what people said of their own experiences in interviews and that sort of thing. It has a cast of 9 people who seamlessly change roles and characters, and it's going to be quite an extraordinary piece of theatre because the story it tells is quite harrowing. I sat down with Marianne yesterday to talk about the diagnosis that started the whole experience and also ended up resulting in her moving to a town that she never ever wanted to live in, and that's here in Toowoomba.
I never saw myself here, didn't think I wanted to be here. Was adamant that I wouldn't move to Toowoomba.
Yep.
But here I am living in Toowoomba.
That's right, exactly. What's the old saying? Show if you want to make God laugh, show him your plans. And you just cannot predict these things. Take me back to 2018. You were living your best life in Brisbane. Tell me about that.
Yeah,
what were you doing?
Yes, I had started running my own puppet and drama business. Since touring, I realised because of all the school-based stuff that we were doing, I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to make impact on children. But then when I went into teaching, I realised I couldn't make as much impact. I couldn't use as much drama in the classroom as I wanted. So I started a business teaching, running PD on helping teachers use more drama in the classroom and taking puppets into schools. And I'd started to feel like I was making a bit of impact with that business. I had some students from QUT doing their pracs with my business. I was also working with Queensland volunteers, and some of them were helping make puppets, helping me build my website. Things were starting to build a bit of momentum. I was applying for some really big grants. And then I discovered it myself when I was lying in bed that I had a 4-centimetre lump in my right breast. Which turned out to be an aggressive and invasive breast cancer.
Wow.
So all of that business stuff folded and life as I knew it stopped.
Boy. And that was just there was no lead-in time or no ramping up to this. It was basically discover it one night, presumably go to the doctor ASAP, and then bam.
Bam. And the day before, the morning of discovery, I had my prac student, we were talking about this grant that we were applying for. We had all the paperwork together. We were going to have these business auspice, we were, we're collecting all these resources to say why we wanted this puppet program in schools. And it was just a matter of submitting the applications. We never got to submit it because that very night, I couldn't go forward with anything.
Yeah. So you got the news fairly soon, and then that was all off, so the students had to go back to QUT. Anything that you had going had to be immediately be abandoned.
Everything.
And then you would have gone straight into treatment.
Yeah, it was very rapid. So my mum had to move up very quickly because it was discovered it was a stage 3 invasive breast cancer and had moved. It wasn't just in my breast, but in the surrounding tissue.
Right.
So they very quickly, within about 3 weeks, I'd started chemotherapy. I had my head shaved. I had a shave party, invited friends over. Initially, it felt kind of fun, like a bit of a novelty. Like, get the head shaved, try on wigs, try on scarves. But within a few weeks of being on chemo, I got very, very sick. I got a cough that I couldn't shake. I got very tired. And Mum, moving in, she was helping with taking my kids to and from school, shopping, cooking, doing things that I slowly became unable to do.
Right, okay.
Or quickly became unable to do.
Yep.
Became quite weak. And as time went on, I began to have a lot of breathing trouble.
Really?
Yeah.
And that was also as a result of the chemo as well?
Yeah.
Did they... I suppose it's pretty common knowledge that chemotherapy can potentially, knock you around. But do the doctors... I'm just curious, do the doctors prepare you adequately for that, about what it will mean, or did this really take you by surprise, just how profoundly it knocked you down?
I didn't want chemo. I had a brother who had died from leukemia just 2 years before, which is why I'd started my business sort of in his memory, and I dedicated my business to him. But I'd seen what chemo did to him in his leukemia treatment. And I was saying to the doctor, is there another option? Can I not have chemo? Can I please not have chemotherapy? And they said, your cancer is so invasive. This is the best approach. This will stop the cancer spreading any further through your body. If you opt for a non-cancer intervention, if you don't go down this treatment path that we prescribe for you, then we're not sure we can help you.
Wow.
So I didn't feel I had any other option.
Yep.
I remember the day of my first chemo session, and they're putting it into my arm, and I was just crying because I'm so careful. I eat gluten-free, dairy-free, organic.
Right.
So careful with what I put into my body. And there's this big bag with biohazard on the front of it, and it's bright red, and it's going straight into my veins in my arm.
It's bright red, is it?
Bright red. It's
Gee
called
whiz.
a red devil, that particular type of chemotherapy drug.
Right. So there are
chemical.
there are different degrees of chemo as well.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
The next one they put me on, it was called pexitaxel, and I used to call it pterodactyl bone crusher because I would just feel so tired and my bones would ache all the time on that one.
Right. Okay. So they're all bad, but they all have a different effect.
Yes,
Yep.
and I guess the thing with chemo is that it does halt tumours growing, which is why they want to give it to you when you're going through cancer. But it doesn't come without side effects. So it stops the tumours growing, but it stops your hair growing, your nails growing. It stops you don't get much, you don't smell too much.
Right.
So there's it halts a lot of the necessary cell development that happens throughout the body as well.
Right. Okay.
And it's those other side effects
that just make
recovery quite difficult. So I became what's called neutropenic. So my white blood cell count was very, very low. So I had developed a cough very quickly that I couldn't shake because my body was unable to shake sickness. And it was a lot like COVID for me in that I had to isolate and people weren't visiting.
Oh, because your immune system was
My
down.
immune
You
system
couldn't
was
risk.
so low. Like my friends wanted to come visit and they'd say, I can't visit you. I've got a cold. I don't want to make you sick.
Right. Okay. Gosh. Everything that would have made life more bearable was suddenly off limits to you.
Well, I guess what was great was that Mum was there.
Yep.
And we hadn't been close at all. And then when she moved in, we became very close very quick. And I just loved the little routines that we had going around the house and how she was, I don't know, just cooking, not to have to cook when you're a single parent. And every day it's cooking and cleaning and dropping kids to and from school. And there's my mum doing all the hard jobs that I really didn't like.
Yeah.
Helping so much. And just to have that company really lifted my spirit. And I did have some beautiful friends coming over a lot and coming to my appointments at the oncology wards at the hospital, and even just sitting with me and showing me who they were dating on Tinder. Making me laugh, just continuing the kind of conversations that we would have had normally at a cafe if I wasn't sick. Helped me feel better.
That's brilliant. The next chapter of the story is that Marianne had to move to Toowoomba, where the father of her children lived, so that her mother could go back to her life and her hometown in northern New South Wales. But I asked her at what stage in her cancer journey did the idea form to turn her experiences into a stage play?
Just after I got here.
Right, okay.
So the very end of 2019, I was making friends with someone and they were like, oh, you're talking about cancer all the time. Like, you just talk about it all the time. And I thought, yeah, I am talking about it all the time. and I saw a play.
That's a bit rude,
It
isn't
was
it?
a bit rude.
Yeah.
I saw a play.
Still a friend, is this person?
No.
No. Sorry. Okay.
I saw a play down in New South Wales, and I just imagined the play Mosquito. I saw that play and I could see my story being written in a similar way. And I thought, hey, I could do that. So, yeah, at the end of 2019, I started to write down everything that had happened in my life over the last 10 years into a play format. It had 54 characters, and I had no idea how I was going to stage that. That's
Wow.
enormous. What a crazy endeavour.
Yeah.
100-page play, 54 characters, huge. But it was really cathartic writing it all. I didn't know what the end of the play... the end was this character, Mexa, a.k.a. me. But, Mexa in the play.
Yes.
What her life would look like now that she's in Toowoomba. But I wrote in an ending anyway, which I kind of revisited later. But the ending of the play isn't too different to what I imagined the character would be doing.
Right, okay.
And it was a great way of really fleshing it out while it was still raw, while it was still new. I put in the whole of her journey, my journey, and the discovery of the cancer, the process of walking through cancer, what someone who goes through breast cancer, what their surgery looks like. So it's far more in depth than anything I've ever seen before in terms of what it really looks like. The play, the way I've created the play with my cast, the way I've constructed it as a director, I use a Brechtian approach.
Verbatim theatre, is that the Brechtian approach, or are they two different things?
So verbatim and Brechtian theatre is this type of theatre style that a lot of Year 12s study.
Yep.
I hadn't realised how current this was, but I was just writing verbatim. I was writing real conversation. So every conversation, everything spoken in the play is something that's actually been said in real life.
Yep.
Brechtian in that all of the actors, except for my two leads, wear black throughout. They're in theatre blacks.
Right, okay.
At times they speak directly to the audience. It's no set, no scenery.
Right,
except
okay.
for 10 chairs.
Gotcha.
And the chairs are constantly moved out around the stage. So the lights change, my cast come in, quickly move the chairs, and suddenly you're in a different place.
Right,
You're in a
okay.
different setting.
And all of the cast also play multiple
They
roles?
play upwards to about 7 to 8 to 9 characters.
Right,
And
hence
it's
the
so
black, they are completely mouldable.
Exactly.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
And suddenly they've got a different wig on, or a hat, or a scarf, or a jacket. And
Gotcha.
it's so fun for them because they get to really use those acting skills.
Yeah, I was going to say fun. You call that
It's-
fun? To me, it seems the literal. Don't know if you're Arthur or Martha.
Exactly,
That's
and
what
the
it
audience
seems
is like, "Oh, what's next? What's next? Who are they next?
Yeah,
Is that my
that's right.
mum?" No, hopefully, I want the actors to, embody those characters so much that you feel like there's a cast of 54.
Marianne Buchanan, the writer of Breaking Breast, which is coming to Toowoomba's Empire Theatre as part of the Homegrown Independent program at the Studio Theatre, the back of the Empire, between the 18th and 20th of July. And if you buy a ticket, tickets are $30 and $25 for concessions. You're making a difference to Toowoomba residents living with cancer, as Marianne is donating $2 for every ticket sale to Hope Horizon Cancer Wellbeing Services, to thank them for the help and assistance they've given to people like herself living in Toowoomba who are facing cancer. So tickets are available at empiretheatre.com.au. If you're online, follow the links to the What's On and then the play Breaking Breast, or you can give the Empire Theatre box office a call. David Iliff with you. It's 1 to 10.
Whether you're running late,